the Cincinnati Bengals have finally made their first of many new hires, and this first one comes for the offense of coach. But before I get going, I just want to show you guys this graphic. This is you guys are viewing. 98% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. Only 1% is. So before I keep going, as you can see my head popping up and down, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps me, it helps the channel grow so that more people can see it, and we're trying to build a community of Bengals fans, obviously. So don't forget to subscribe to the Bengals Digest channel. But now, in the video, Cincinnati Bengals have hired Scott Peters. Scott Peters was the Patriots offensive line coach until they completely cleaned house after one season, and Bengals swooped in and got Scott Peters. There's a lot that could happen, and if Cincinnati does this the right way, this could, and when I say this, I'm not joking, this could change the trajectory of the Cincinnati's franchise. If they do what they need to do this offseason, it changes the entire offensive line drastically overnight. But before I go into any of all of that and what I think the Cincinnati Bengals should do on the offense of line, I'm going to back up Scott Peters and why this is such an amazing hire. And I know, like, oh, it's just an offensive line coach. I don't. Offensive line is probably the most important position outside of quarterback. If you can't protect the quarterback, then it doesn't matter how good your quarterback is, because you're not going to win games, because he's going to be sacked every time, like Joe Burrow has been. Record for playoff sacks, 9. And Joe Burrow, he is the only person to win when getting sacked 9 times in the playoffs. But we have to protect Joe Burrow. Our Super Bowl window is opened as long as Joe Burrow is healthy and on the Bengals. And how do you make sure he stays healthy? Is by building a dominant offensive line around him. We have our tackles figured out. Orlando Brown, Amarius Mims, rookie, showed out. He's going to be our future tackle. Now we got the tackles figured out. Center, Ted Karras, one of the best centers. We have our center figured out. Offensive guards, some of the worst offensive guard playing this season. I love Alex Kappa, but he won the Triple Crown for worst offensive guard in the NFL. Most in QB sacks, most in QB hits, most in QB pressures, most in everything. That's terrible. And Cordell Volson, on the opposite side, isn't much better. So, there's a lot of things that need to go on the offensive line, and this was the best hire that Cincinnati could make. And don't take my word for it. Take the word of many offensive line coaches in NFL. First, starting with former longest tenured offensive line coach for the Cincinnati Bengals, Jim McNally, one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of the NFL. He was there when we won our first and second AFC title with Ken Anderson and Boomer Esiason. He was the guy that protected both quarterbacks and led them both to the Super Bowl. This is what he had to say on X today. Scott Peters will make the Bengals great again. Mark my words, he is hands-on, smart, updated with the latest techs on pass and run, and will develop young guys to their max. He is the top new O-line coach in the NFL, way beyond all expectations. So, McNally, former Bengals offensive line coach, knows exactly why Scott Peters is the best hire Cincinnati could make. If you don't want to take his word for it, take a rival's word for it. This is Browns offensive line coach Bill Callahan on Scott Peters. Bill Callahan is the best offensive line coach in the NFL. Also probably one of the best, or if not the best, greatest offensive line coach in the history of the NFL. And when Scott Peters was working under Bill Callahan, this is what he had to say. Scott is a hands expert. It's really quite unique in the sense that there aren't a lot of martial artists who can take that type of system into pro football. I think we're unique. This is him speaking when Scott was still on the Browns team or in the Browns coaching staff. We're unique in that regard. And I think we're fortunate as well to have somebody like Scott who can bring a different perspective to line play, because he has played offensive line and he has studied all these different techniques and leverages when he was working as a jiu-jitsu wrestler. This is coming from Bill Callahan, the guy that developed him into the coach that he is now, and talking about why the Browns, who have had historically one of the best offensive lines, were so fortunate having him in their coaching staff. And obviously the most important, to me at least, is what the guy who hired him, Zach Taylor, had to say about him. This is Zach Taylor on Scott. Scott is a great fit for our offense. Exactly. He is passionate about the position and has done a great job of both developing young players and helping veteran players continue to grow. And I'm going to talk about that later. He is familiar with the AFC North and knows what it takes to win in our division. I am excited to have him on our staff. If that doesn't convince you right there, I don't know what's going to. All three coaches, Jim McNally says he's going to be or is the best new offensive line coach. Bill Callahan, the guy that developed him, was saying the Browns were so fortunate that he was on their coaching staff. And even our head coach says exactly what he said before when he was talking about the new defensive coordinator. He kept the same perspective for the rest of the coaches. Now, looking to fill all the rest of the coaching vacancies right now, look for them all to be tied to the AFC North in some way. Before Scott Peters was the offensive line coach in New England, he was in Cleveland working with the Browns. He knows the AFC North. Expect all the rest of the hires to be connected to the AFC North in some way. Like the defensive coordinator job, who is most likely going to be Al Golden, was a Bengals coach, linebacker coach a few years ago. Every vacancy that needs to be filled, I won't be surprised if it comes with connections to the AFC North. But going forward, anyways, if you go ahead and do your research on Scott Peters, probably the most recent thing you would find is how he did with his new team, the New England Patriots. Not that great. If you're looking at overall grade with the offensive linemen, they were basically the worst offensive line this season, like 32nd ranked overall. They were like 31st in run blocking and 32nd in pass blocking. But also that offensive lineman is made up of day 3 draft picks or guys who were undrafted. So he didn't have a lot to work with. If you bring this guy into the Bengals offensive line room with guys like Orlando Brown, Ted Karras, and Amari Mims, and the other guys I think we should bring in, I'm not scared at all, especially with the word all the other coaches, some of the best offensive line coaches in the history of NFL are saying about this guy. But let's read the report on when after they hired him, what the reports were going on saying. Here we go. Here's the report if you want to go read it yourself. From practice squads to MMA to Cleveland and New England, Scott Peters' journey continues as Bengals offensive line coach. This is the first part. After 4 seasons, make it a little bit bigger. After 4 seasons with the Browns, Peters left to become the offensive line coach of the New England Patriots in 2024. But New England owner Robert Kraft's quick trigger in firing Jared Mayo and his staff after just 1 season made Peters available. Peters spent 7 seasons in the NFL, mostly on practice squads. He appeared in 7 games for the Giants in 2003 and retired after the 2008 season. But Peters didn't go directly into coaching, at least not football coaching. The Arizona native and Arizona State graduate returned to his home state and helped start the Lions' then MMA Academy in Scottsdale. Peters worked with some of the best fighters in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, including Brock Lesnar, while also competing and winning a pair of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championships. That was going back to what Bill Callahan was talking about when he was trading Jiu-Jitsu. This guy has trained MMA and Jiu-Jitsu. He knows how to use his hands. Amazing. That's what Bill Callahan was talking about. He said he knows how to incorporate both of those wrestling and jiu-jitsu styles into the offensive line play. I'll keep going. Oh, sorry. That was it, apparently. So, that's all you need to know about Scott Peters, why this guy is such an amazing hire for the Bengals. But now, I think we're fine with the tackles and in the center with Ted Karras, Orlando Brown, and then Amari Mims. Orlando Brown Jr., left tackle, Ted Karras, center, Amari Mims, right tackle. We're fine in those 3 positions, especially with a guy like Cody Ford. And honestly, you could keep Cordell Volson to be backup offensive lineman. Whoever gets hurt, you can plug them in. They'll be fine. But we need to figure out the guard spots. Cincinnati Bengals need to have 2 new offensive guards this next season. And there's one guy, he's going to be a lot of money. There's one guy who's going to be a free agent after this season that we need to go get. You probably saw it already. But Kansas City Chiefs Trey Smith. He is go look at rankings, he's top 5 rankings in free agents this season. He's going to be a lot of money because he's one of the best guards in the NFL. And there's a lot of things Bengals have to do, including cutting some players. And if you cut the right players, that frees up enough money to go get a guy like Trey Smith. Let me if you guys don't know Trey Smith, I'll show you. Trey Smith, only 25 years old, obviously on the Kansas City Chiefs. Overall grade this season, 78.8 overall, 14th ranked among offensive guards in the NFL. That's about 132 guards, by the way. 70.6 pass grade, 33rd in the league, and 80.8 run block grade, 10th in the league. He will run up about 20 million or more, most likely more because of how dominant he has been this season. But that's what you're normally playing off the top offensive guards anyways. Offensive guards is one of the most expensive players because their job is to protect the quarterback. Look at that picture behind him. He's protecting Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL. He's going to get paid a lot of money. Cincinnati has to go in and offer that guy $20 million or more a year to go get him, and they should. Think about the guys that most likely are going to get cut. There's 3 names that Bengals fans and Bengals Twitter, everything around the world of Bengals, are saying these 3 guys should be cut or most likely will be cut. The first one hurts the most, Sam Hubbard. He's right now making $11 million a year. If he gets cut, that's $11 million in the cap space already. And we have $47.5 million in cap space already. We're like top 5 in cap space. So if you remove Hubbard, that's $11 million more. Sheldon Rankins, he's making $10 million a year. If you got him, that adds $10 million to the cap space. Alex Kappa, who won the Triple Crown for worst offensive guard in the NFL. $10 million a year. If you remove him, that's $10 million. If you remove all 3 of those guys, or even 2 of them, if you want to keep Sam Hubbard because of his captain and his leadership in the locker, that's fine. That's still $20 million right there with those 2 players, with $47.5 million already in cap space. Cincinnati can afford Trey Smith. Are they going to do it? Maybe not because of how cheap we've seen our organization be, but this is the guy you need to go get 100%. Trey Smith should be in stripes this coming season. I don't care if he wants 25 a year. Go give him 25 a year. He's worth it. If you want to make sure Joe Burrow doesn't get hurt every single season, go get a guy like Trey Smith. And then we still have draft picks. That's what I'm going to next. This draft class, one of the best for offensive guards. How deep it is. Maybe not top-end talent, but how deep it is. If you develop them right with a guy like Scott Peters, who can go develop a guy, like Zach Taylor said, rookies and veterans, you'll be fine. And there's a lot of them. And they're all over the place. First one, Tyler Booker. He's probably going to be a first-round pick. He's projected every single mock draft going first round. He has played both offensive guard and offensive tackle, so you can move him around the offensive line. This season, Tyler Booker, 66.5 grade overall. So maybe you hear that's not the best, but he's also in the SEC, which has some of the best defensive lines in college football. But every scout in the NFL saying he's going to go first round. So I don't know if he will even fall to the 17th pick. But if he's available at 17, we've seen the Cincinnati Bengals draft offensive line in the first round. They did it last year with Amari Smith, and they hit on the tackle for the future. If you got the chance to go get a Tyler Booker in the first round, if he's still available at 17, it's hard to pass him up. I already know I've said a lot of guys we should pick in the first round, but the offensive guard is probably the most important position right now, I would think. If Tyler Booker is available at 17, it's hard to pass him up. Maybe if he's not even there, you could go get a guy in the second or third round. And there's a lot of guys that I think will be available in the second or third round, including this guy, Tate Ratledge. He is projected to go second or third. So you can not waste, but spend your second or third round pick on a top offensive guard who was also in the SEC. Like I said, second or third rounder. His grade, 74.4 overall in the SEC, going against some of the best defensive line in college football. Tate Ratledge, if he's available in the second round, it's hard to pass him up. There's more. Just wait. Oh, wrong button. There we go. Donovan Jackson. Donovan Jackson is in the Big Ten. Also one of the best defensive lines, especially going up against Michigan's defensive line, going up against Penn State's defensive line. Penn State and Michigan combined have at least probably 4 defensive linemen that will be drafted in the first round. In the first round, Michigan, Penn State, probably 4 players on their defensive line alone that will get drafted in the first round. Donovan Jackson went up against them this year. What was his grade overall? 70.9 grade overall among all offensive guard. Not almost. Throughout his season, he was graded 70.9. He's projected first or second. You could get Donovan Jackson in the second round. Go get a defensive edge in the first round, like I talked about yesterday with Jahad Campbell, and then go get a guy like Donovan Jackson or Tate Ratledge in the second round. And that fixes the offensive guards. And I'm not done yet. There's more that could draft later in the round or later in later rounds that would still improve your offensive guard significantly. Joshua Gray with your Oregon State Beavers. He's projected to go third through the fifth. So third, fourth, or fifth round is where he's projected with a 72.9 grade overall. You could go get him in the fourth or fifth round, and he would improve the offensive guard significantly. One more. This guy, man. I'm extremely interested in this guy. Clay Webb. He's an offensive guard for Jax State. Listen to this grade. He's in, compared to the SEC and the Big Ten, he's not in the greatest conference in the world. He's in the USA Conference, pretty sure. His grade overall, 87.5. That's tied for first. His grade for pass block and run block were both higher than 85 grade. He's one of the... If he's available, they're projecting him to go 5th through 7th. 5th, 6th, or 7th round. You could go get Clay Webb, who is graded at 87.5, almost 90% grade for offensive guard. I don't care what conference he's in. If he's that big, that fast, and that good against whatever talent he's going against, and you can go get him in the 6th round, I'm getting him. Bengals could easily turn their offensive line around in one season. They've already started doing the right thing with going in and get a guy like Scott Peters. And then what do? Go spend some money. Front office, go spend some money. Go get Trey Smith. He's going to be a free agent. He's probably going to cost you 25. Get rid of some players that have not done well. Go get Trey Smith. He's going to protect Joe Burrow. Then let's go to the draft. Let's get an offensive guard on the opposite side. Then our offensive line is complete. You could get Tyler Booker. Maybe he falls to 17. Fine. Tyler Booker isn't there. Go get Tate Ratledge in the 2nd or 3rd round. Okay, fine. He's not there. Go get Donovan Jackson, also in the 2nd or 3rd round. Fine. All 3 of those guys go. Before you have the chance to pick him, go get Joshua Gray in the 4th or 5th round. If Joshua Gray's gone for whatever reason, go get Clay Webb, 87.5 overall grade in the 6th round. We could fix the offensive line in 1 year, in literally the span of 2 months. The draft is coming up in April. All these names that I just said, look out for them. 2 of their names at least should be on the Bengals next year. 100%. This guy especially. This guy right there. If the Bengals are serious about wanting to win a Super Bowl and bringing a Super Bowl to Cincinnati for the first time ever, go get Trey Smith. Gonna make it bigger. Trey Smith. Go get Trey Smith. Trey Smith. Trey Smith. Trey Smith. He's a beast. Orlando Brown Jr. He was on the Kansas City Chiefs before he came to the Bengals. He turned out pretty good. Do the same thing. If Kansas City doesn't want to sign him, go get him. I don't know why they wanted to. You're probably going to have to go into a negotiating battle with Kansas City, but offer him $25 a year to come to Cincinnati. We've already seen Kansas City offensive linemen work in Cincinnati. Why not bring another guy who is one of the best guards in the league to protect one of the best quarterbacks in the league? It's pretty simple. And I think because of the hire of Scott Peters, like Jim McNeely had said, he's the best offensive line coach, new offensive line coach in the league. He's going to be here for a long time. If what everybody is saying is true about him and the expectations I have of him, he's going to be in Cincinnati for a long time. Just like a guy like Jim McNally. He was in Cincinnati for about 15 years, taking them to 2 Super Bowls with his offensive line play. And he's saying that he's going to make the Cincinnati Bengals great again, and I believe him. Go give him help, though. Go give him help. I believe he could probably make this offensive line right now decent. Go get him help with a guy like Trey Smith, or also, outside of Trey Smith, go get a guy like Tyler Booker, Tate Ratledge, Joshua Gray, Clay Webb, or Donovan Jackson, and you flip around that offensive line in literally 2 months. And then Joe Burrow is probably going to be one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league within a few months span. It's quite simple. I don't know why this should be done 100%. But that's it. I'm done. Not ranting. I'm just apparently I'm very passionate about offensive guards. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bengals Digest channel. I'm going to show you a graphic again. 98% of you guys are not subscribed who are watching this video right now. So go subscribe right now and like this video, please, and comment on what you think we should do in the offensive guard or just the entire offensive line in general. Do you think we should go get a tackle or another center? What do you think we should do? And what names are you looking for in free agency and the draft? But thank you so much for watching. It's the big day, Ohio State. I'm a Buckeyes fan. Had to shout it out. But thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Peace out.